Hey guys, I'm Si and welcome to Me, Myself and I, episode number 2. We are going to be talking whatever I feel like talking about. But of course, as usual, we're live on Facebook and YouTube. A.C.E Podcast Nation, of course, you're home to many great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on the social medias. And of course, subscribe to that YouTube channel. Click the bell for notifications and you'll get everything first straight away. And if you like your podcast in audio format, we are of course part of the Sports Social Podcast Network, which is of course the UK's first dedicated sports podcast network. You can find all of our shows, all produced by A.C.E Podcast Nation at the Sports Social Network. So please do check them out, give them a follow, tell them we sent you, which of course helps us lots. So for those of you who don't know, this show is completely different. It's a mini-series, a temporary series, whatever you want to call it. It is just me shooting the breeze, as it were, the polite way to put it. Just going to talk, answer questions from the people, obviously heavily reliant on people sending questions and whatnot. And yeah, new overlay, just trying something different. But yes, to get your questions in, doesn't have to be football related. It can be anything you want. As I'm like, I'll answer anything. Always get myself in trouble by talking about things which I'm not supposed to talk about yet, which I did yet again last week when I started talking about the Patreon and some of the plans for that. But the feedback was good for that. A load of people said, they'd like to get involved. They definitely sign up and stuff like that. So maybe we will launch that sooner rather than later. So if you've got any questions about that, got any particular stories you'd like me to talk about, again, football related or not, doesn't matter. We will just shoot the breeze, as it were. But let's have a look who's in the chat in a minute. But of course, with A.C.E Podcast Nation as a channel are supporting a charity Super 6 this year. Supporting charities, the Maggies Centres and Mind charity. Lots of ex-Cardiff City footballers, myself, and lots of people. I think it's about 90 people involved in the league overall. What we got? So we got Mike Richards, or Grandad, as he's sometimes known, tops the round did last weekend with 10 points. Dale Perry was close behind, only second on golden goal prediction. After another good round, Gareth Price still top of the league. But can someone knock him off the top spot? As apparently he's getting a bit big-headed. Cohen Griffith still the man to beat from the ex-Cardiff City players with 48 points. And again, there's 90 players so far. There's £540 in the prize pot, and we've also got £800 for charity, which is a cracking effort. So get involved, test your football knowledge against some former footballing legends, and of course the main thing, raise some money for charity. So let's have a look. So James Costley's there, Rye is in. Who else we got? Lorna, Reese's mum's here. That's what we like to see. Reese's mum she's always around, and there's Reese as well. James Costley, Reese, Cage Childs, welcome Cage, and there's Will there. If you want to have a look at the Super 6 Prediction League and want to get involved, you can speak to Will Meliush and he will add you to the group, add you to the leagues and stuff. So yeah, I'm interested in what people think about the new overlay. Obviously, I had to come up with something different because it's just me, and my green screen's like when it's just me, the camera doesn't quite, it shows the edges, which is just like boxes, because my office is not tidy. So I had to come up with something imaginative. So I thought I'd try something different. And if you look, top story, just to my right, but here, there, Ronaldo joins Manchester United, last dance. I'll try and update these each week. The Premier League, just above that, is up to date with all the points and played. And the breaking news was last week. Middlesbrough ladies got off to a flying start with a 4-1 victory under the Cardiff City legend, Andy Campbell. So someone let me know how they got on yesterday, because I've been a bit away from social media, so I don't know how he got on in the second game. But everyone seems to like the new overlay anyway, something different. Reese, you should refer to your mum as just call her Reese's mum instead of mum. Just everyone should say call her Reese's mum. It's the way to go. The way to go. Donna Perry has returned from no doubt another run around Cardiff, and she has joined us as well. Cade, Matthew Angel, they lost 4-1 apparently. That's a shame. 100% record's gone, but it takes time, doesn't it, to bed in and to get the players to get to know the manager and vice versa. So, don't read too much into it. I've got no doubt that Mr. Campbell will do very, very well. So we've got I've got a few things to talk about, rant about, some would say. You've got there was an incident between Brazil and Argentina. I'm not fully up to date with this, but from what I can gather, the game was suspended after the two teams were having a bit of a brawl. Here we go, Gavin Randall in the house. More evening, Gavin. So yeah, there was some sort of incidents, and there was all hell broke loose. It's all a bit pathetic, if you ask me. Like, these footballers need to just get a grip a bit, act like adults. I don't understand it. So Sunday's match was abandoned just after kickoff after Brazilian health officials objected to the participation of 3 Argentinian players because they say they broke quarantine rules. Yeah, so I suppose that's a little bit different. But then, why did they wait till just after kickoff and not before the game kicked off? It's a bit weird. Like, I don't know. Just need to get a grip. But FIFA regrets those scenes. But maybe FIFA should be more worried about the racist fans from all the different countries, because, it is what it is. So apparently, Will says there was false COVID details given. So there we go. But I don't know, really. Like, it's a bit of a dodgy one, isn't it? With COVID protocols, you've got to be doing all you can to make sure people are kept safe. And recently, in there, the police came onto the pitch. There was health officials, because 4 British-based Argentinian players didn't quarantine, even though the Brazilian FA, the South American head of football, agreed. The Argentinian FA agreed to the game. The health board claimed they had more power than the FA. Look, so Rai says, who would you award the points to and why? Like, to me, if someone's intentionally broken rules that they knew were in place and they've tried to just basically ignore it because they think they know better, then they should be the ones who lose the game. However, if they followed what the footballing governing bodies have said, this is okay, this is what you do this, do that, and they've done that, but then the health board have said, well, no, that's not what it is, then I guess you've got to probably have to replay the game, because you can't punish Argentina if they've done what the FIFA have told them, or the Argentinian FA have told them. Like, it all depends on that for me. If they've done as they've been told, can't blame them. If they've tried to just ignore it, thinking they know better, then Brazil should be awarded the points. But Brazil generally, from what I can gather, the little I know, have not been dealing with COVID particularly well. Gareth Bale saved Wales' dream, says Donna yesterday. Yeah, so that's one of the things I was going to talk about, actually. I was furious with so I didn't watch the game, but I read the report on BBC website yesterday. So I'm going to read you a little excerpt of it now, and I'll tell you why I was a bit pissed off. So Wales beat Belarus 3-2. For those who don't know, Gareth Bale scored a 93rd minute winner. So it says, Gareth Bale completed a match-winning hat-trick deep into injury time to spare Wales from embarrassment against Belarus in Russia and keep their hopes of qualifying alive. The reason I've got a problem with it is that was like Wales is probably 9th, maybe 10th team in terms of who they would select the amount of players that they had out and the amount of players, obviously, so they got 10 people withdraw for a COVID or injury, and then they lost another 3 because they couldn't sort their visas out in time because they weren't expected to be called up, and then obviously because they were going to Russia caused them additional problems. Like, if this was Wales's first team and they played the way they did, or they struggled to beat Belarus the way they did and nearly lost the game, then of course they should be open to criticism. Of course they should. But in this article, there's no acknowledgement of the amount, like it says at the bottom how many players are out. But like, this was not just like 1 or 2 players out. This was a whole team and more out. And a lot of those were first choice players. And I just thought it was so disrespectful. The travel involved as well. It was just about getting those 3 points. Wales did it. Gareth Bale has done very little for Wales over the last year or so, in terms of contributing to games. So he was due one of these, and from what I saw, they really, really needed him because Wales did struggle. But Wales also caused their own problems as usual. 2 ridiculous goals, particularly the second one. Was the second one? Yeah, the second one. It was ridiculous. 2 goals in 2 minutes. I don't know. I just think I was under the wrong impression that the top 2 qualified for the World Cup. So the top one goes automatically, which is obviously going to be Belgium, and then the second team gets in the playoff. Third team may get in the playoff. But Wales' best choice, I think, or best chance of qualifying for the World Cup could actually come through the Nations League, which obviously me and Andy have discussed the Nations League numerous times, and we're not always massive fans of it. But if it means Wales can qualify for the World Cup, then good old Nations League. Of course, Wales are not the only ones who are missing players, but the difference between Wales and a lot of other teams in the world, Wales have a very small pool of players to pick from. And when you've got a small pool of players to pick from, it's not just that, it's the quality of player in that pool outside of the main, say, A15, does drop quite substantially. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way to any of those players who did play, but a lot of those players were very young. A lot of those players are not, they're not Champions League footballers, let's be honest. Whereas you look at someone like England, just as an example, were able to leave out Mason Greenwood, who's just been named the Premier League Player of the Month for, what's his name, from Leeds, Patrick Bancroft, what's his name? I don't know, Patrick Thingamajig from Leeds. Not a very good striker, in my opinion. Good footballer, not a good finisher. So that was a weird one to leave out Greenwood for that, as I said, with Rodri on Friday. People criticise it, or people, Bamford, that's the one, thanks, Will. People calling for Robert Page to be sacked. I got a few issues with that. And look, I'm not saying that I think Robert Page has done everything right. I was quite critical of him in the World Cup, in the Euros, whereas Rodri and Andy kind of stuck up for, and Gilo stuck up for him a bit more. I felt he made a lot of mistakes, particularly with his selections and his substitutions. Tactically, I think he's a bit naive, and tactically, that is on him. Like, you cannot put that down to the situation he finds himself in. They can't really sack him until they know what's going on, or they can't get rid of him until they make a decision on Ryan Giggs one way or the other. Because no, they can't bring another manager in unless they sack Ryan Giggs. And I do get the impression that if Ryan Giggs doesn't go to jail, they're probably not going to sack him. Otherwise, they would have, to be honest. So they've got to let it play out now. The other thing is, and I think people sometimes underestimate the vast amount of influence that Osian Roberts had under Chris Coleman and Gary Speed. Like, Chris Coleman's a good motivator, which I believe so is Robert Page. But the tactics and the way the team set up and played and adapted to games, that was all Osian Roberts. And I don't think Robert Page has got that at the moment he hasn't got that tactical, experienced head on him, with him in his backroom staff. And if someone can give me a list of his backroom staff, I'm happy to take that back. But in my opinion, he hasn't got that Ocean Roberts, and I think he could do with it. I don't know who you would choose to be it, because ultimately you can't bring in, for instance, Chris Coleman, because everyone would be calling for Chris Coleman to have the job. And I don't necessarily think Chris Coleman is the best tactically. Ocean Roberts is an assistant manager who's vastly experienced, very good, great relationship with the players, but tactically is spot on. A few latecomers, Smog on the Time, welcome. Owen Jones, welcome, my friend. So a couple of comments I want to address. Let's have a look. So, yeah, James Cossey says, I wonder where he's taken Morrow on his honeymoon. He does seem to like Morrow, and I don't really understand why. Kelly says, I thought Brennan Johnson gave a really good account of himself for Wales, and I think he did too. I thought he was very good from what I saw. Kate Childs agrees with me. Bamford, awful finisher. Gavin Randall, not a fan of Ryan Giggs. But I do agree with you. Gavin says he thinks that Ryan's probably going to go to jail. Look, I don't want to go too much into the ins and outs of it, but I do think that's probably going to be the outcome. When obviously I do a show with Rodri now every Friday. It's not something which I'm going to put him on the spot and ask him about. But if you go and watch his appearance on James English's podcast, he kind of intimates that he thinks that that's probably the likely outcome. But that's my show with him is not about that, and I kind of don't want to go into that. Of course, further down the line, if we're still doing the show and it happens, then of course, well, we'll talk about it. But at the moment, it's not something I want to bring up on a weekly basis. But I do think that's the outcome. Donna says she thinks Ryan Giggs was doing a good job. And to be fair, I think what he did, it is so reminiscent of Chris Coleman. He started off trying to carry on what Chris Coleman had done, playing the way Chris Coleman had played with the players that Chris Coleman had used. And he struggled. And only when he broke free and played his own kind of formation and the players and ideas was then he did really well. And Coleman was the same. He tried to carry on Gary Speed's great work after Gary Speed's passing, and he tried to do things the way Gary Speed was doing it. And only when Chris Coleman said, you know what, if I'm going to have this job, I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, not the way people think I should do it. And when he did it that way, he started to bring it around. And I think Giggs was doing a good job until all this, when it came about and kicked off. And of course, it is what it is. Reece says he don't think he'll go to jail. There'll be hefty fine, community service, money talks. I'm not sure about that. It depends on evidence and witnesses. But Gav, I agree with you, mate, and I've said that all along. But just because I think the Welsh FA should have made a decision straight after the Euros. They should have said, right, enough's enough. They didn't. Now they can't, because you can't. If you're gonna sack him and just bring in Robert Page on a permanent basis, then that is pointless. You may as well wait and see. If you're going to sack him and then sack Robert Page as well and bring someone else in, all right, then maybe that's the difference. But ultimately, they've put themselves in this position now where they have to wait and see. And like I said a few minutes ago, I believe if he avoids jail, he will keep his job as Wales manager. Otherwise, what was the point in waiting? Imagine how I feel, Donna. But yeah, it is a bit. It's awkward. Friends with his brother, so it's like, I don't want to constantly be asking Rodri about that. So we have talked about it, but ultimately, there's not anything to know, is there? At the moment, it's just waiting, and we'll wait and see how it goes. So that's what I was going to look at, was Wales's Nations League group, because I believe, from the top of my head, I thought that there was a good chance of Wales winning the groups. Right, so Wales, Group 4, they are top of the group at the moment by 4 points, with 6 games played. Finland, Republic of Ireland, and Bulgaria are in the group. So yeah, look, is that the full group? Is it just 4 teams? Someone will tell me. Someone who knows more than me. But yeah, it looks like 4 teams in each group. So yeah, like for me, Wales should win that group from the position they're in and the teams they're against. However, I wouldn't fancy playing Republic of Ireland away with 13 players out. And especially like Aaron Ramsey is such a massive blow every time he's out with that Wales team. For me, he makes far more of a difference. You might be right, Kelly. You might be right that we've already won that group. We haven't had the new group yet. There we go. There's so much I care about the Nations League. I got to say, I'm not a fan, but there we go. So Gavin Randall, that's an interesting conversation, Gav, that you bring up. So Gavin says Mark Hughes did a good job, and I've seen a lot of people within the media and fans. They kind of get Mark Hughes off, Sparky off as he was rubbish. He didn't do. Should he have done more with the players that he had available? You could argue that by all means, but for me, it's not just about the players that you've got available. It's about the players that are available to the teams you're playing. And what, at that point in time, what we had to do week in, week out was we had to, every time Wales played a football match, whether it was against Germany and Italy and all these different teams, and they were always had these world beaters. The groups we used to get, every group felt like a group of death. Every group, and it was just constant. So yes, of course, we had amazing players, the likes of Bellamy and Giggs and all these different people, but we always had to play these teams which was full of superstars, and we never had any depth whatsoever. When you look at it, like as soon as we had one injury, we were into League Two players. When we played Russia in that playoff game, that was the time for Hughes, and he should have qualified. We over 2 legs, we should have been beating Russia with the team we had, and we didn't. And I remember, I believe off memory, and we all know my memory is not great. I'm pretty sure he played like Earnshaw on the right wing or something ridiculous. Like he tried something clever and it didn't come off at all. We lost, and the rest is history. And Will makes a great point. The one thing with Mark Hughes is he did leave Wales in a crazy bad state. He heavily relied on experienced players, older players, which meant that the next manager was in a bit of trouble. At least now we're dependent on these young footballers, and there's so many young footballers, not just in the first team, but in the under 21s, under 19s. There's a lot of Welsh talent there, to be ripe for the pickings. Going back to England, I will never. So I heard someone say, and I think it might have been Talk Sport, someone phoned up about Greenwood and Bamford, and they said Bamford's in there because he's been consistent and he deserves a cap, and Greenwood's not in there because he misbehaved with Foden about a year ago and because he pulled out of the Euro squad. So there's a couple of points with that for me. Number one, why are they given? Why is Gareth Southgate? Why is the England? Why are England caps being just given to people for the sake of it? You should be the players, the best players available every time. You don't just hand out caps for international teams just like a little pat on the head to say well done. Come on, that's ludicrous. That's my point. I'm Patrick Bamford, good Premier League striker, not an international footballer. And what tells me that is if any of the Champions League clubs need a striker, has Patrick Bamford been mentioned with any of them? No, he hasn't, because he's not an elite level striker. That's no disgrace. A lot of people are not elite level strikers. It's just the way it is. However, Mason Greenwood is being punished, all right? not a problem. Well, why isn't Phil Foden also being punished? Because Phil Foden did the same thing as Greenwood. I think they broke protocol or something like that and had some girls back to their room. A typical mistake of a young person, basically. And for me, it makes no sense other than the only way I can make sense of it is that if Gareth Southgate was not happy that Greenwood pulled out of the Euro squad at the last minute, and it's almost like a punishment for that, saying you don't get to pick and choose. But if he was injured, then he was injured. And that's just the way it is. And I think I would not buying that at all. Greenwood should have been in that England squad. Just the way it is. Like, he's going to be their centre forward for years to come. So why would you not want to get him in there and play in as soon as possible? Get him in there playing as much as possible, because I wouldn't be surprised if he stays free of injury, he could go on and be the record scorer for England, because he's a natural born finisher. He can do it with both feet. He's an exceptional footballer. So yeah, I'm not having that at all. Don't really get it. Gav, I can't remember if you were with us on Friday with Rodri. Let me know your predictions for who's going to win the Premier League and what's the top four going to be. Yeah, Mark Noble not going to Euro 2016, Reece, it's an incredible one. Yeah, Antonio for West Ham as well should have a load of caps for England, but he's obviously changed his allegiance to Jamaica now. There's a few players who did that. I mean, didn't Zaha got frustrated, I think, with not being picked for England, so he eventually just went, do you know what? I'm going to change my allegiance. And I don't blame these guys for doing that whatsoever. They've got the heritage and the roots for those countries, and it's like, how long do you wait? The football, we've talked about it before with numerous guests. Football's a short career. You don't always have time to pick and choose. You never know when you're going to pick an injury. Talking of predictions, yeah, I did my predictions. Trent Alexander didn't go to the Euros, should have gone. And of course, look, all managers have got players that they trust a bit more, or everyone's got their favourites, haven't they? Everyone's got a favourite player, so you're always going to pick kind of the players you trust. I do understand that, but in the grand picture, in the grand scheme of things, you've got to also, as an international manager, pick the best players available to you. England have got a wealth of players, so they should pick the best players to them. And I'm not convinced that Gareth Southgate always does that. And let's be honest, he's done a phenomenal job, so it's difficult to criticise him. But there's always a but. He also, I think, is not immune to criticism. That is one of his the criticisms that I'd have. Like, I think Reece just says there, Trent Alexander was injured. And yeah, like, to me, the best two right-backs in the Premier League last season were Trent Alexander and Wan-Bissaka, and neither of them went for different reasons. I like Trippier, but so it's madness, mate, madness. So yeah, if you've got any questions, we don't have to keep more Wales, England football. It could be anything you like. I'm going to be here for probably another 15 to 20 minutes. So you send your questions in and let me know what you want to talk about. As always, I'll just let loose and just say whatever I feel. So yeah, what's people talking about? Yeah, Andy is. So Donna said Andy's only 5 points ahead. Only 5 points ahead of Andy, and Andy's only done 2 rounds. Guy said he's loving the thumbnail. Yeah, I appreciate that, mate. I not very often I post images of myself because I don't like them, but I thought because it's a podcast with just me, I thought I'd make best use of them. So I selected an array of photographs of me from over the years. See if anyone can pick out which one of the photographs is digitally altered. One of them is digitally altered. It's not difficult to work out, in fairness. Let's have a look. What else we got? Gaz says, what top have you got on site? It's funny you should say that, Gaz. I can see if I can stand up without falling over. Let's check out my grey hairs. I have the blue V-neck A.C.E Podcast Nation Andy Campbell football show shirt on. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but on the back, it's also got A.C.E number 1 on the back as well, which is kind of cool. I quite like it. It's a nice fit. It's a bit big for me because I've got little shoulders, but quite like it. Quite like it. Yeah, Super 6. Donna, I knows. Let's have a look. What else we got? Gavin, I'm glad that top fits you, mate. That's a one in a kind, never to be repeated top, because it was a sample which they sent me, and I've changed the design a bit since. So any of the new tops, if people buy them, will be completely different. So you've literally got a one in a kind. So if I were you, and it's only my suggestion, whenever we do a live show, which we will do at some point, I think you should bring it with you. And bring like a white pen or a pen and get Andy to sign it, mate. Make it even more one of a kind. Donna says she liked Danny Batten Fight Show page. Yeah, please, everybody, if you could go to facebook.com/Danny Batten Fight Show. It's now got its own Facebook page. I know a lot of you come and watch the fight shows, and I really appreciate that. But if you could go and like it, even if you don't watch it and you just support the channel, I would love you to just like to follow the page and then invite all your friends to do it as well. Because for some reason it's been really weird with me and it won't let me invite. Normally I can invite, and even on the main A.C.E Podcast Nation page, I can invite all my friends to like it. But it won't give me the option on the Danny Batten one at the moment. So I don't know what's happening. The big man's here, Alan Jones. And he says, say hello to Emma. Welcome, Emma. I will meet you soon at some point in the future, I'm sure, when I've stopped hibernating, as it were. But welcome, as always welcome, people. Reese's mum says, looking forward to the live show. We'll have a T-shirt made saying Reese's mum. Well, Lorna, if you like this T-shirt, the football-y shirt type one, if you wanted to get it and you contact me before you buy it, I might be able to sort you out with one which says Reese's mum on the back. But you'll have to contact me before you buy it. Is the only thing with that. But Reese says he's enjoying the fight shows on a Sunday. Yeah, they've been really good. Next Sunday we've got a real treat because we've got Jack Shaw's dad joining us live. Obviously, Jack had a massive victory in the UFC on Saturday, so to get his dad like a week back. He'll only be back from Vegas for a couple of days, and he's coming on live. Really, really looking forward to that. It's going to be great. What else we got? Donna says we'll all be at the live show. Indeed. Yeah, we will. It's just delayed at the moment. I'm really gutted. I actually said to my wife today that I was really disappointed that I don't think I'm going to be able to make it happen for my birthday weekend, which is what I was hoping to do. Circumstances have just kind of taken it out of my hands, unfortunately. Jack will be back on the show, Donna, soon as well, I would imagine. But he got to give him a couple of weeks off after his fight, although he did not take any damage whatsoever. So yeah, get your questions in, people. Any questions, whether it's about Patreon, whether it's about shows, whether it's about guests, whatever it may be. When's my birthday? Lorna says my birthday's on November the 11th, and I'm 40 years old. The big 40. The big 40. Yeah. Well, Donna, the thing is, you say I should come out for a drink with you all. I'm very, very antisocial, which is weird. So yeah, I have a very, 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 very small circle, and when my circle is disrupted, I get even weirder. But I'm sure we'll sort something out in some way or some fashion. 40, you know, it's just a number. Gaz says, is there Super Kev unscripted this week? there's two sort of questions to that. Yes, hopefully. Pretty sure there will be. But there is a caveat to it. It might be slightly different this week for a very specific reason. It might be a late night Super Kev Unscripted, and it might be an 11 p.m. start, I'm afraid, for all you people who've got to get up early. But there is a very special reason that it would be at 11 o'clock. If it is, it might also be the normal time. So I'm just waiting for Kev to confirm. Actually, that's another message now. See. But yeah, look, if it's at 11 o'clock, it's for phenomenal reason, and it's going to be amazing. So fingers crossed is all I will say. Yeah, Cade asked the same question, Kev, this week. Yes. I'm looking forward to Super Kev Unscripted, particularly if we can pull off what we've got planned. 11 o'clock is going to be special. It's going to be special. I couldn't possibly comment on the reason why it'll be on at 11 o'clock, but it's not difficult to work out. Just got to pay attention. So, we got about 10 minutes to get your questions in before I retire for the evening. You're a clever lot, and you. Clever lot. So what we got this week? So yeah, hopefully Super Kev Unscripted will work. And the 99% sure Super Kev Unscripted will be on this week. There's a small chance it might be a late one for a very specific reason. But if not, it'll be the normal time. Friday, I'm back with Rodri. And really enjoyed that first show with Rodri on Friday. That's going to be it's going to be some good stuff. I'm really looking forward to that because I think me and Rodri get on quite well on screen. We get on well anyway, but we get on quite well on screen as well. And I think as we get into it, I do believe that we can have some good conversations because we don't always agree, which is always a good little ingredient for these shows. It's boring if you just agree all the time. And me and Andy never used to agree all the time. I had a Barney with Jeff Winter once on one of the Friday shows. It's what makes the world go round, what makes it good, isn't it? So a couple of questions I'm going to answer now. Let's have a look. What we got? Gavin says his top four is Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool, Man United. I agree with that, apart from I'd probably switch Liverpool with Man United. But apart from that, I think you're spot on. It'll be those four teams. Reese says, question for the group as well. Oof, he's leaving me out of it. And he says, question for the group, will Cardiff sign any out-of-contract players? Nope. Next question. Cardiff have not got the funds. That's why we had a fire sale, which is my opinion. Donna says, what do you think of Cardiff's prospects after the transfer window? They'll be all right if they don't get any injuries, they don't get any suspensions, and they don't have any little niggles or knocks, and they have no problems whatsoever for the whole season. Then I think they'll make the playoffs. If they don't, if they have one long-term injury, one long-term suspension, or they have any off-the-field issues, they will struggle, and I believe they will just drift into like mid-table 12th or something. The squad's not big enough. They've got rid of all their wingers. There's no depth there. So unless they're going to pull out like 2 or 3 gems from the youth team, which is not impossible, but I tend to think if there was those 2 or 3 gems already, we would have seen them playing a handful of games, and we haven't really seen them play much. So we'll see. We'll see, though. We'll see. Could be interesting. Kelly says, do you think Ronaldo will hit the ground running? I think Ronaldo is not human. You just got to look at the way he's performed for Portugal this week to see that he is just a beast. 36, and he's not like us normal people. and he's a guaranteed 25 goals a season striker for United. The amount of chances that they missed last year, they create those same chances, which you'd think they would, because not only have they got the same players, but they've added Sancho to that as well. Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood, Pogba, Fernandes, Martial, all those players, even Lingard technically, like all those players creating chances for Cavani and Ronaldo. Ronaldo's going to score so many goals. It's unreal. And he is just a stat machine, like headers, penalties, free kicks. I don't think he'll take the free kicks, but headers, penalties, in and around the box, he's just going to get a bit of space and shoot, and he's going to score a lot of goals for him. He will hit the ground running because he's been playing regularly. He's fit as fit can be, and he's so professional and the way on and off the pitch that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he grabs a couple against Newcastle in his first game if he starts. Donna says, how do you find Rodri? So I really like Rodri. I get on with him really well. I've done quite a few shows with him now, because I did a show way back with him early on in the channel, and that's how we kind of got to know each other and kept in touch. Then he came on and did the Euro shows with me and Andy. I thought he was outstanding in those shows. And then Friday we had our first show where it was just me and him. But I think we get on well. I think he's low-key really funny dude. Like, he's quite dry, and I like that sort of sense of humour. He's very knowledgeable, and I think they're going to be really good shows on Friday. Particularly, I'd say give us like 2 or 3 episodes when we're really into the flow of it. I think they're going to be top quality, especially because my favourite shows are the ones where I just flip from subject to subject and we just talk about all different stuff. And that's kind of what we're going to do, but it's going to be all things football on the Friday. And, you know, when there's games coming thick and fast, it's going to be superb. So, yeah, it's good. I'm really looking forward to growing that show and, you know, spreading the word, mate, and guys, and just like letting people know Rodri Giggs podcast on A.C.E Podcast Nation, and it's just letting people know. You'd be amazed how many people don't realise that Kev McNaughton does a regular podcast on the channel. And it's just one of those things, try to find people and find their ears and eyes. Kate Child says, how many games before Arteta gets the sack? Oh, look, to me, I don't think, if Arsenal were to lose another 2 games, so they were played 5, lost 5, I think he's gone. Because Arsenal, as a football club, shouldn't really be losing much more than 5 games over the whole season if they hold themselves to the high standard of a club like theirs. So if you've lost the first 5, you've put an amazing amount of pressure on those players. So, you know, not that I think their squad's good enough to do anything, but I'd be surprised if he was to survive a couple more losses without picking up any wins or any sign of improvement from the squad. Right. Donna says, hi, Bean, how did you get to know him and get his details? So I tweeted him way back and said, I'd like to get you on my podcast. I said something like, it's a small channel, just started. I'd like to get you on and just have a chat. He said, oh, yeah, cool. So I DM'd him, and we followed each other and DM'd him, had a conversation. And then kind of just grew from there, kept in touch a bit. And then before the Euros, obviously, he came on and had a chat on the phone, and away we go. And, yeah, he's such a good person, like just a good human being. He's such a sound guy. I cannot speak highly enough of Rodri. I've got to say, he didn't have to do, and I said this messing about when he did the James English podcast, but he kind of did my podcast first. So it's just James English has got a bigger platform. But yeah, I'm only joking, of course. Like, if you go back and watch the unscripted, uncensored episode with Rodri, it was he was so honest and so funny, and he tells the story of how the advert came about with Paddy Power. He tells the story of how some of his family members treated him, and some of it is quite shocking, but the way he tells it is really quite funny. And he's, like I said, it's that dry sense of humour which kind of drew me to him as well. I just, that's my sense of humour. I've just dropped the episode in the comments if people want to have a little look at it later. Okay, let's have a look what else we got question wise. Kelly says Arteta will be gone if he loses one more. James Costley says Ronaldo's going to play till he's 45. Do you know what? I would think he could, because he's so fit. If he stays injury free, which he's generally done through his career because he's so professional. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he was to play into his 40s and probably at the top level. I reckon he'll play until he's like 40 in like the top level, and then I think he'll go to like Qatar or the MLS, probably the MLS, to see out his career. I do feel a bit sorry for Arteta because I don't think he's got the players to play the way he would like to play, but he's also not helping himself. Will says, with the troubles Swansea are in, do you think this year we could be the first team to do the double and beat them twice? Kind of the same answer to what I said when someone asked how I think Cardiff will do this year. Cardiff could do it, but on paper, particularly the way Swansea play football, I'd be more confident of them beating us most of the time than the other way around. And I don't want to say that, but I'm not confident in Cardiff's squad. They've got rid of any width. We haven't got, like, if we get any injuries, we are so far up the creek without a paddle. It's unreal. So, yeah, that's a problem for me. But hopefully, of course. And Rodri has his own podcast called Shoot the Defence as well, which he does. Shoot the Defence do a lot of different football podcasts. They've got like podcasts from different countries and stuff as well, which is quite cool. I do like the way they go about their business. But that's why he couldn't do a Monday, was because he records his podcast Shoot the Defence. Reese says the board have stepped back. They've thrown money at Edu to go and sign players, and he signed absolute rubbish. Will.i.am, David Luiz, Pepe, Ramsdale, just to name. Yeah. Oh, the signings have been for Arsenal have been obscene. Kelly says, what about Paul Parry to come on? He was training my nephew last week. Yeah, look, Cal, get his contact details to me. I'd love to get Paul Parry on, whether it's an episode of my story or something different. Sorry, let me just send this message to a person. Right, last couple of questions, and then I'll be off ski because I've got some stuff to do. Let's have a look what we got. I want a couple of good questions to finish. Ronaldo to come on Size My Story series, absolutely. There you go, guys. Ryan's interviewing Scott Wotton on his channel tonight. If you want to go and check it out, 9:30. Have a look. Arteta, Jesus, nice one. I appreciate that, Gav. Talking about the overlay, I made it myself. I thought it was a pretty good job. Try something different. Ronaldo with his beautiful little face in the corner as well. It's like me and Ronaldo side by side. How many times did you get to see that? If you could pick one person in the entire world to interview, who would it be? Right. Sorry. Rai said Rodri's interview and Scott Wooden at 9:30. There you go. Check out Rodri's interview with Scott Wooden at 9:30. Do apologise, Rai. I got confused there. So Matthew said, if you could pick one person in the entire world to interview, who would it be? See, that I find that really difficult because there's a few different shows that I do. So I kind of look at it from a show and a guest point of view. I would like, for the fight show, Conor McGregor or John Jones. They would be my two. If I wanted it for the football show, Roy Keane's up there. Who else would be there? Trying to think. Roy Keane is probably right up there for the football. My Story, there's I want like the My Story series. I'd like people who've had like a really kind of checkered past, ups and downs, because they make for the best episodes. If you can get them to open up about their ups and downs, they can be really emotional, funny, happy stories. But I'll come back to you with that. Gaz says, what's happening with the Monday guest if AC goes? So if AC is not going to be coming back, I don't know if he is, I don't know if he isn't. No idea. If he does, then he does. If he doesn't, then there's basically going to be two options, I think. One option is to make the My Story series a live series and a revolving, ongoing series on a Monday live with just guests from everything, actors, footballers, writers, whatever it may be, just telling their story every Monday. And live as well, so it'll be slightly different. There's that. Or I try and get someone else in to replace Andy as the kind of co-host for another footballer or someone. So yeah, that would be that. What else we got? Al Big Man says score prediction for Wales versus Estonia tomorrow. Oof. I'm going to go with Wales 2, Estonia 1. Just because I'm not confident in Wales's defence whatsoever at the moment with all the injuries and whatnot. But I think we can get a win if we're at it. We need Gareth Bale to do something special, let's be honest. Di Thomas, Darcy Blake, yeah, they'd be really good guests from a Cardiff point of view. I really would. Donna says, never knew how funny Roy Keane was. Do you know what I've watched with Roy Keane is really, really good? Is The Overlap, it's called, on YouTube, and it's basically him walking his dog with people, and it's very funny. Him and Gary Neville just walking the dog, talking about old stories. Is phenomenal stuff. Donna says, can Rodri get David Beckham on? Oh yeah, look, if David Beckham's going to do a podcast, it's going to be mine, isn't it? Let's be real. Just like Rodri did mine before James English, David Beckham's going to come do mine before he does anyone else's. Right, one more question, and then I got to go. So, what we got? Kelly says Joe Rodon's come back to the Wales camp, apparently. That's good news, if so. Need him, so maybe Estonia won't score a goal. Rye says Darcy Blake was awesome at Argyle. So what I would like to know, guys, and I'll ask you guys a question to finish it off, is if the worst happens and Andy doesn't come back, would you prefer an ongoing My Story series where it's me and a guest, and you only have to look at the 2 series of My Story I've been to see the standard of guest, but it would be like that every week. It would be footballers, rugby players, athletes, whatever it may be, and kind of go from there? Or would you prefer to keep it a football-only guest show and find another co-host, or just do it me and a footballer? But that would be slightly trickier because I'd say like probably 85 to 90% of the guests came through Andy's contacts. So I think it's tricky. So there we go. Matthew straight away says, My Story's great, but he enjoys the off-the-cuff solo show as well. So there we go. Rye says, football-related only. Donna's greedy. She wants both. Just do a show every night. I can tell you the Serial Killer Files is coming back. Going to begin recording this week. So that's going to be good, being Reese. They'll be coming out on either a Tuesday or a Thursday, but they're not going to be live, I don't think. But we'll see. Reese says, if Andy doesn't come back, keep doing the Monday shows normal. Just message all the previous guests and see if any of them want co-host for the evening, and if you felt more comfortable with a co-host. I don't mind doing the shows on my own. I think the biggest problem is just getting new guests each week. My contacts in football, I've got a few, but they're there's a limit to them. And what I wouldn't want to do is be really like getting to like a Saturday and a Sunday, not having a guest for the Monday and contacting people cold. I'd like to have everything booked in advance and do it professionally, isn't it? Matthew says, do this show on your own, and then every now and then have a guest. Yeah, it's a shout. Keep an eye on social media, guys, because there is. I will put out about the Kev show this week. Like I say, 9 is pretty much definitely going to be on, but it's going to be Kevin McNaughton, Super Kev Unscripted will be on this week. It'll either be normal time, 8 o'clock, or it'll be 11 o'clock. We all know why, but let's pretend it's a surprise. Right. I'm gonna go now. Enjoy your evenings. I appreciate you guys so much for joining me to shoot the shit on my own, because it's it's weird talking to a camera on your own. I appreciate it. Donna, one day there'll be shows out every single day. If I could get like a sponsor for every show, I'd put out 5 shows a week easy. But the amount of time that it takes, the effort that it takes, and everything, the finances that it takes, it would be brutal to do 5 shows a week. So I would need that. But my thinking with my story on Monday is, one, I could very easily get some very, very interesting and entertaining guests to come on and tell their stories from all walks of life. And I think whether it's actors, like if I just very quickly go to the first 2 series of my story, just to kind of, if people haven't seen, I can kind of show you the variety of guests that we had on there. So you should check them out, because they're really interesting, even if you're not interested in that particular sport. Like, they're interesting. So episode 1 of this first series, ex-cricketing legend Chris Lewis. So even if you don't like cricket, he's got an incredibly interesting story. He went to prison for drug smuggling in the middle of his career, and he's got such an amazing story. Second episode, Reece Weston, ex-Wales, Cardiff defender, ex-Arsenal defender, now works for Brentford behind the scenes. Robbie Regan, former WBO world champion Welsh boxer, ex-Welsh boxer. Tom Watt, who works for BT. I think he works for the BBC. He was Lofty in EastEnders. So interesting. Scott Young, Adam Hollyoake, got an incredible story, including his younger brother dying in a plane crash, and how he had dealt with that. And then we got Riaz Khan, who's an author and a Leicester City fan. Another one with just this incredible story and life. And then series 2 started off with Boatsy, Gary Clark, author and Nottingham Forest fan, phenomenal story. Jess Bent, who's a female football agent, great story. Then we had our old friend of the channel, award-winning journalist and best-selling author Harry Harris. I had my friend, author and radio DJ Adam Carew, talking about his battles with mental health and bipolar, which was really difficult show for me, because me and Adam were very close back in the day. So to hear the struggles, and he got hospitalized, and the issues that he'd had over the years was quite emotional. But as always, we want to talk about mental health to help people. Gilo has done one. Ex-Wales, Cardiff Palace, Swansea midfielder, of course. Johnny Owen, Welsh actor, filmmaker, talk sport presenter, did one. Luke Fletcher, current cricketer for Notts. T-Rev is a rapper, did one. Shed 7 lead singer, Rick Witter, did one. Our very own Andy Campbell. And then we finished off with the legends, that is, actor Eddie Webber and author Eddie Webber, who starred in the Rise of the Foot Soldier series, The Business, The Firm, and many other films. So you can see the vast array of guests and different different ranges and just like different, and like a live story. It's basically be the equivalent of what me and Andy did, but it would be with just different people from different walks of life, different levels of fame, different sports. And I've got a few like in my back pocket as well already, which I want to do. I've already sorted out, I think, a handful of guests from the next series of my story. And I think I said last week, Rodri's one of those, which obviously he's got an incredible story to tell again. And to do that live, I think adds another thing to it. Right. Okay. I'm going to get in trouble now because I've stayed way over the time I said I was going to. What else we got? Matthew Angel doesn't know why the Super Kev show is planned. Might be at 11 o'clock. Well, go back and watch when I was talking about it and see there was an Easter egg on the screen. You could just find it. And Kate Charles says, thanks for doing these Monday shows, mate. I love them, mate. I love it. It's fun. My thing with these is I just worry that people will get bored of just me talking incessant bollocks. But yeah, I could. Donna says there's less pressure if you can't get a guest every week. Of course, I will always do, like, if I've got like a My Story series planned or a guest planned and something falls through, then I'd still do one of these. Like, I would never just cancel a show unless it was for a specific reason, like a health reason or something. But like, I think there's less pressure with doing My Story every Monday live because there's not a limit to football. Footballers are weird. It's difficult. My health, yeah, I can't say much about that, mate, at the moment, but it is what it is. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate all the lovely comments. I'm proud of me too, right? I gotta say, it's been a rocky road this last couple of years. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, my friend. If you want to check out some of the t-shirts that we got, including this one modeled by myself, go to the Facebook page and there's links to the merch site. Let's have a look. Right, let's go. It's a pleasure, guys. I love you all. Have a fantastic week. Look out on social media for news on Super Kev Unscripted. Most likely will be Thursday night. Either way, could be Wednesday, but I will keep you informed. Until then, make sure you are subscribed and followed. Please do like and follow the Danny Batten Fight Show as well. That would really, really help me out. And most of all, invite all your friends to like it, please. I beg of you. Until then, I'll see you later.